AWS presents Tech Pioneers in association with CNBC TV18.com.
AWS presents Tech Pioneers in association with CNBC TV18.com. And we are talking pushing the boundaries of new possibilities with GenAI. Generative AI is poised for significant growth, and India is at the forefront of this growth trajectory. Now, by some estimates, GenAI could drive a 7% to almost $7 trillion uplift in the global GDP by significantly improving productivity in the next 10 years, and that is massive. Last year, enterprises partnered with their solution providers or system integrators and mostly experimented with GenAI through pilots or POCs, which were focused largely around either cost reduction, adding velocity, or quality improvement. On the other side, global solution providers are actively building GenAI capabilities to unlock innovation, productivity, and build comparative advantage. Now, sharing an example, today a number of solution providers are deeply looking at their existing IP assets, solutions portfolio, and are moving towards transforming them into a modern cloud-native, GenAI-amplified SaaS platforms with deeper domain or industry capabilities and accelerators. Now, viewers, in this interview series, we talk to some of the most distinguished leaders from the Indian IT/ITeS industry and get to know their perspectives. And on that note, we have today with us Balakrishna D.R, popularly known as Bali. Bali is an Executive Vice President EVP at Infosys and leads the industry verticals and AI and automation practice globally. Bali has a multi-billion portfolio and is responsible for new service offerings, solutions, platforms, and partnerships. Welcome, Bali.
Thank you.
It is great to have you on this show.
Me too. It's a pleasure to be on this show with you.
Thank you. So, Bali, let me begin by asking this with you. Infosys is an AI-first enterprise. It's an AI-first global solution provider. GenAI has been ramping up in the last 1.5 years. Talk to us how this journey has been. How have you really seen this come along till here? Will be great if you can share some highlights in the last 1.5 years.
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, we have been on this journey for about 1.5, 2 years. And early on at Infosys, we made a decision that we should practice what we speak, right? So, while we are taking solutions to our customer, we need to equally make sure that we apply it to ourselves. So we started this journey about 2 years back within Infosys, saying that we want to be an AI-first company. Multiple reasons for that. One is that we are a large company ourselves, more than 300,000 employees, operating over than 50 countries. There are a lot of different types of use cases that we can actually use to make Infosys and our services better. And right, that is one. The second is that it is much more easier to experiment with data because we own the data. It is much more easier for us to actually experiment with that. And third is that it will create credibility for what we are actually taking to our clients when we have applied it to ourselves. So as we went through this journey, there were multiple learnings, right? So one of the first things that we actually did was to look at Infosys, what are the different roles where we can apply GenAI. And we found that practically every role at Infosys, whether it is a finance role, legal role, developer role, right? Any role, right, that you could actually leverage generative AI in the way that they were actually providing services. And so we were calling that AI assistants. Now with agentic AI, the possibilities increase much more, and we're looking at all the different processes and what we can actually do within the processes. But other than that, there were multiple other learnings. What we realized was that it was very important to first get your data right. So data strategy is very, very key before you embark on your AI journey because AI models work out of your data. There was also other things that we actually realized. We don't need the very large language models for all the use cases. We can work with smaller models, right, that specifically for our use. We realized that when you're talking about multiple models, etc., you need to create an AI platform, which we actually did. We also realized that you have to make sure that your you have to use AI responsibly. So we actually looked at how we can do that. We looked at our talent strategy, the operating model, so multiple other dimensions that we had to actually manage as we were going through the AI journey. So we took all of our learnings from what we did internally and the work that we have done with clients, and we have created a playbook for implementations with the clients. So this has actually helped us actually create the playbook. It has helped us realize the benefits internally and also create a playbook that we actually take to our clients when we provide services to them.
Thanks, Bali. Love the answer, by the way. You touched multiple areas. I'm going to dive deep into each one of them probably as we go along. But love the fact that you talked about Infosys itself pioneering the adoption first within itself, and your scale helped. The amount of data which you have helped, and that is how you have built the credibility with your customers globally, given that you yourself have consumed it across multiple functions. So I think amazing answers. I'm going to come back to you again on responsible AI, the data strategy later, but thank you so much for answering this. Infosys has pioneered, Bali, the narrow transformer approach for GenAI. Tell us about how this is going to help enterprises towards adoption of GenAI, and what is the kind of readiness which you typically, ideally would want to have an enterprise to have with respect to having this approach being implemented?
Sure. As I mentioned, what we realized early on is that for most enterprise use cases, you don't need the very large language models, right? You can actually do it with smaller models, anywhere between 2 to 7 billion parameters, right? And we looked at how we can take this and sometimes open source models and train it with organization data and use it in the organization context. We found multiple advantages. It is more context specific and in terms of the way it actually performs, and also it is actually more cost effective to run, right? And so this approach we called as a narrow transformer approach that we actually used internally for ourselves and we are using with our clients. So we use a combination of RAG, right, or the narrow transformers, or we also now recently created 2 small language models completely from scratch. And we see a lot of interest with our clients also to actually use that. So we use a combination of all of these when we actually take this to our clients, right? Based on the use case, we use a combination of these. Now, in terms of readiness, we see multiple things that are actually needed. Data readiness becomes very key, as I actually mentioned. But it is not just about technology. A lot of times it is about making sure that you have a multidisciplinary team when you're actually bringing AI, because the use cases are from across the organization. You need to get buy-in from across the organization. So how you structure the team, the right kind of sponsorship, right? And then the talent readiness, right? You need to be able to create awareness within the organization and also create core teams. All of these become very important as a part of the AI journey that enterprises take.
And how do you see enterprises respond to this, in a sense, this approach?
Yes, the enterprises really appreciate that. For a lot of the initial POCs, we have actually worked with them on the very large language models. But as they're looking to scale it across the enterprise, they're using a combination of multiple models, which you yourself also from AWS promote, and they receive that very positively, right? And it has worked well for us.
Thanks, Bali. The mention of AWS brings me to my next question. We have this massive, deep, decade-old partnership between both the companies, Infosys and AWS. Give me your views on how do you see this partnership going ahead, with more from the lens of generative AI. Our teams are also engaged across multiple fronts globally with our customers, specifically on driving productivity for developers, both inside Infosys and outside. Just your quick take on that.
Yeah, I think, we have a very good 360 degrees partnership with AWS. We consume services, we provide services to you, and we together take offerings to the market. And it is a long, trusted relationship that we have with AWS. And we have used that in the AI space in multiple ways, right? One is, so a few examples of, how we have used AWS Bedrock is the contact center transformation that we have done together for one of our marquee clients, right? We have also used computer vision technologies from AWS in the warehouse management for our client, right? So there are multiple use cases that we have actually worked on, and it has worked well. Coming to the developer productivity that you actually mentioned, right? So we find that Amazon Q that our developers are using has multiple benefits. For example, it allows us to actually train the model with the code that is there in the enterprise, right? Because as you know that, right, every enterprise has their own type of coding standards, own libraries, etc. So this becomes an important feature to be able to train it with your enterprise data, and becomes more context specific in the way that the tool then actually responds to code completion and things like that. So that is, I think, a great feature that the developers like. The second is because it is multimodal, you can use that to write diagrams, designs, right? You can be able to provide all of that, and then also data visualization capabilities that comes. That is also a feature that is actually well appreciated. Also from a security perspective, right, that it actually complies with HIPAA standards, right, and other various security standard, ISO, SEO, etc. That makes it also very attractive for us to use. And so we have increasing number of developers actually starting to use Amazon Q.
Amazing, and we'll go a long way in that direction, Bali. From developer to your global talent, Infosys obviously is one of the most respected companies in India and the world. You have a diverse, vibrant global talent force, technical in nature. Um, this sort of pivot towards generative AI, and there must be having a need to reskill or upskill or get talent at that scale, right? And you've been doing it very, very well. How are you doing it? How are you pivoting towards reskilling or upskilling of talent on the Gen AI front? And is there any governance which is required for that?
Right. No, absolutely. I think very, very important questions. As I mentioned, right, talent becomes an important aspect of this whole AI journey, right? So in Infosys, what we did is that, well, most of our talent is actually engineers and people from technology background, but we said that everybody in the organization needs to understand Gen AI, right? They could be from non-technical background as well. They might be playing a HR role, finance role, but we said everybody in the company needs to understand Gen AI, at least from the way of what Gen AI is and how it can make impact in what they actually do. So we created a program which we call AI Aware, and with that we are rolling out to the entire organization, and 85% of our employees today are certified on the AI Aware program. But then we also created deeper levels, right? What we call a AI Builder level. These are for people from technical backgrounds where they actually integrate AI tools in the use cases that they are actually developing for the clients. And then AI Masters. These are specialists, right? And these, for example, helped create our small language models. So we have three levels: AI Aware, AI Builder, and AI Master. And we look at actually covering the entire company. Now, from a governance perspective, right, for this program, and this is what we recommend to our clients as well, what has actually helped for us is that the AI First initiative in Infosys is sponsored by the chairman and our CEO, Nandan and Salil. That makes a huge difference, right? The sponsorship from the top makes a huge difference. And then, right, multidisciplinary teams that I actually touched upon. It is not just about somebody in technology coming up with a use case and implemented. What we are actually, we've involved all functions of Infosys, and we have multidisciplinary teams, and everybody feels part of this effort, right? And then we had to do a lot of communication. What does AI actually mean, right? Because the first thing that people think about is jobs, etc. So we had to do a lot of communications around that. And then also we are not going for what we call, right, from a change management perspective and the way that we are implementing, we call it micro change for mega outcomes, right? we are not trying to do one big release. We do releases every 6 weeks with incremental features that are actually happening. And then we pilot it, and then based on the feedback, we actually scale it. And that has actually worked very well for us.
Thanks, Bali. I'm sure the viewers must have a lot to learn given the multifaceted, answers and so much programmatic interventions which you are mentioning, which is taking you places, right, all across. And the fact that I think you also worked with multiple functions to implement GenAI internally also must have helped to kind of spread awareness across various functions, right? So that's great. You mentioned about responsible AI in the first, when you're answering about the last 1.5 years. Infosys has been one of the first GSPs to set up a responsible AI office. How do you see this driving a safe but a scalable adoption of GenAI, and how do you differentiate with this?
No, that's a great question again, right? Because that is a key ingredient for you to actually really be able to use it in the enterprise. So again, if I take Infosys' own example, while we have sponsorship from right from the chairman and the CEO, right, there were also right, they wanted to make sure that we are implementing this in a responsible manner, right? But the first thing that we have to do is to actually define what does responsible AI even mean. So we went about actually defining it. We came up with 12 different dimensions, right? Whether it is about trustworthiness, right? Whether it is about privacy, right? It is about IP and how do you actually protect IP. So that way we went and listed 12 different dimensions. Once we listed the 12 different dimensions, we looked at where we are in each of that, what are the risks that are there, how do I mitigate or manage those risks, and also how do I actually measure them, right? Because right, you need to always good to have a quantitative measure to actually look at where you are from a risk perspective. We developed that. Then we started putting controls, process controls, right, training to actually manage all of those dimensions that I talked about. And we realized that if you do this manually, it becomes very effort intensive. So we started using technology itself to do that. So we built what we call technology guardrails. So in our AI platform, we have a layer that actually has a technology guardrails. For example, every prompt that goes outside the platform and every response, we actually check for things like PII information, for IP violation and things like that. And if there is any violation, we actually catch it even before it goes outside the enterprise firewalls. So we built all of these, right? And then we wanted external validation for some of what we have actually done. So we voluntarily actually approached and we went into ISO 42001 certification, right, which is a new certification that has actually come up for right, how you use AI, right, so we went through that and we became, I think, among the first companies in the world to actually get certified on that. And we work with various industry forums as well, right, to both get inputs and also to share our own learnings. So we work, for example, with NIST, right, and we are part of on the AI front, on responsible AI, there are 5 working groups and Infosys is part of all of them, right. We also work with other organizations, right, in India and abroad. There are working groups that the British High Commission has actually set up between India and UK. We are actually providing feedback on that, right? And many, many more such forums. We do responsible AI sessions. We had a summit recently in London. So we share our right learnings, provide inputs to government organizations and also with enterprises, and also learn from all of them. And that's how right, we are working on this aspect. Yeah.
Thanks, Bali. That brings me to a last question, a little different one. I'll move away from Infosys and talk about India. Now, Infosys, we all know it's a marquee organization. To me, it's like a crown jewel among the Indian organizations. People look up to you, and you have always delivered far and above and beyond, right? Just being Infosys as one of the top corporate houses. how do you see, or where do you see Infosys going with your commitment in terms of nurturing and upgrading? I mean, giving back to Indian workforce or talent force from the GenAI point of view. That's one question. And the second, in continuation, would be, I mean, there's a lot of, while I think we are seeing clearly the potentials and the ramp of GenAI, there are also a lot of sort of different thought processes between among entrepreneurs and among students and among technologists. What's your message to them around GenAI?
Right. I think great questions again. So from a talent perspective, right, I talked about some of the courses that we have. We have a learning platform which we call internally as Lex, but we use this learning platform to write outside Infosys also. It's called Springboard, right? And then it is actually has more than 10 million students across the world actually use this
10 million.
platform, right? And we have made sure, just like we created GenAI courses internally for our employees, we have actually onboarded those those learnings even on the Springboard that is actually accessible to students in India and across the world. Right? We also have a program which we call Connect, right, which we actually do with the universities in India. And this is mostly with the professors and lecturers of different university, and we try to pass on our learnings from the technology and what we experience from the field and enterprises to them. That is another way of us to actually help the universities to get understanding of what is happening in the industry. So and AI is a big portion of that. And you touched upon another important aspect, right? I think the talent in India is actually growing, and we see the number of startups that are actually looking at and very bright ideas and great startups that are actually coming in, right? And we want to be able to encourage that ecosystem, right? So we have what we call IIN, Infosys Innovation Network. In this, we actually work with the various startups that are there, right? And then we take some of their technology, and apply it in enterprise context. That is one of the things that they don't have easy access to. They have great ideas, right? But then they don't have the customer reach that an organization like Infosys can actually provide, right? So we look at some of these companies where we see that there is a very good applicability in the enterprise context. We help actually embed it within our services and make the connection and apply it. So that way we are working with the startup ecosystem also that you actually mentioned. So we try to do our bit to actually contribute back to the society, and also there are obvious business benefits that when we actually bring startups, etc., together, our customers win, the startups win, and we win as a part of that.
Thanks, Bali. I'm really pleased to know that, as I said, going above and beyond and giving it back to the community, to the country on that front. This was the end of our conversation. It's been lovely talking to you. I know you are at the cutting edge, and best of luck, and wishing you all the luck as you go forward your journey. Thank you so much, Bali.
Thank you, Amit, and we really our partnership with AWS is something that we treasure and continue to actually love to work with you as we go forward in this journey.
Thank you so much.
AWS presents Tech Pioneers in association with CNBC TV18.com.